All right. Well, this is another episode of our podium series. We're doing top 3 ways to improve, kind of fill in the blank. We're trying to get experts in their field and kind of give you guys like the 3 best tips to kind of at least start or even improve kind of those simple things. So today we got Adam. He's back in. Is this your second or third episode? Second episode. So we got what your first one was strategy for workouts, right?
Yeah.
So we have the one for strategy, and then this week we're doing weightlifting.
That's right. Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah, 3 simple tips to become a professional weightlifter. That's what it is.
You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Let's get right into it. Rock and roll. Okay. Tip number 1 is identify your weaknesses. What are your limiting factors that are specific to weightlifting? Number 1 goes right into number 2, which is attack your weaknesses. So whatever your limiting factors are in weightlifting, you got to spend some time working on those specific areas. And then 3 is learn some stuff. Yeah. Look for opportunities to increase your knowledge. And we'll get more into each one of those. So number 1.
Like, that it? I was like, that's the end of the episode. We're done.
Hey, thanks for coming in. Thanks for tuning in today. Yeah.
And before we get too much into it, I just wanted to say, like, you've been to the games 10 times on a team. You guys podiumed and won in 2010, got third in 2017. And then you're on not CrossFits, but you're on like the Bergner strength courses, right?
Yeah. Bergner strength team. We've been doing weightlifting courses Coach B's been teaching weightlifting for 50 plus years. And I've been on that team for about the last 5.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Coaching level 1 and level 2 courses. So yeah, I guess. Yeah. Thank you. Maybe it gives a little street cred. Yeah. Maybe not.
Yeah. But maybe not. He's coached me for the past 5 years now, which is kind of crazy. It's been 5 years, 6 years.
Dude, coming up on 6.
I know.
Which is awesome.
Wild. Yeah.
And really we're coming at this from the lens of, 3 tips to improve weightlifting from the CrossFit lens.
Yes.
Right? Now, obviously weightlifting is an Olympic sport. And so there are true experts in the field like Coach Bergner that has dedicated his entire life to this stuff. But from a perspective of, improving as a CrossFitter, and we are a population of athletes that don't do just Olympic weightlifting, or improving as, a CrossFitter in the sport of CrossFit. Honestly, Olympic weightlifting is one of the most complex things that we do. And so I think that if as an athlete or as a coach, if you can improve in the Olympic lifts, you can get better at a whole lot of things, So cool.
Sweet. Yeah. Let's get in the first one.
Let's go. Number 1, attack your weaknesses, or attack your biggest limiting factor. And that's going to break down into three categories. Number 1, are you limited by mobility? Are you limited by your strength? Or are you limited by your technique? Right? So step 1 is just figuring that out. There could be more categories there, but really I think most athletes, most lifters that I see, have one of those 3 things that holds them back more than the other 2. Right? So how would you know if you're limited by your mobility?
I would think that, like, for snatch per se, you have a hard time just overhead squatting. Like, it's hard to get below parallel with an overhead squat.
Dude, this guy should be a coach. I mean, I know he's a world-class athlete, but 100%. If you got a 10-cent squat, you can't expect to have $1 million snatch, right? And so for a lot of the population that we see in CrossFit, like starting out with a good foundational overhead squat is a really good starting point. If that is a big limiting factor for you, then improving your ankle mobility, hips, thoracic spine, shoulders, those are some good places to start. Similar for the clean, if you don't have an effective rack position that allows you to get the weight of the bar out of your hands and onto your shoulders, then that's going to hold you back in a big way. So looking at your mobility is a good starting point. We all started with some great mobility as kids. If you ever watch them hang out in the bottom of the squat, it's like, man, where did that go? And over time of hanging out, sitting in these chairs too much, we lose some of that. So for some of us, mobility might be the biggest limiting factor in our weightlifting performance. So putting more time, attention, effort, detail into improving that might be your biggest room for improvement. Number 2 was strength, right? Man, I don't think that you can understate the value of being strong for Olympic weightlifting, right? So just to repeat, we had mobility, strength, and technique. And I think that it's really glamorous to work on technique all the time, but if you just get stronger, you're probably going to be a better lifter, right? It's not always true. There are definitely exceptions to that rule, but having more strength is king. You know,
Yeah.
if you can improve your front squat, back squat, your pressing, like, man, it's just gonna, it's not necessarily going to help you improve technique, but it's going to help you hold positions that are critical for good technique, right? I would say this becomes even more true as the athlete develops. I think when you have a more novice athlete, um, you know, there's a pretty steep learning curve for learning the technique of weightlifting, but the more you do it, the longer you do it, the better you get at the technique, the greater the need is for increased strength if you want your lifts to go up.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I think we all know like the guy in the gym that's super strong and can like get away with it, but it's just like I'm sure we'll talk about, but like if that strong guy can improve on his mobility, like it would like the sky's the limit at that point, you know?
100%. Yeah, and I think in your own example, think about like 5 years ago how much more technique work we were doing on the Olympic lifts, and now you've gotten to a point where your technique's not perfect, but you're not necessarily being held back a ton by technique. It's like, hey, the stronger you are, the better your Olympic lifts feel too,
Yeah.
right? So you're not just doing technique work nonstop.
Hmm.
There's definitely a time and a place for that, but you know, if you are an athlete that can receive a clean and not stand it up, man, you can work on your technique until you're blue in the face. You just need to get stronger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so that's that's something that like I think gets undervalued in Olympic weightlifting because we always want to work on technique, but like man, just get stronger and it's gonna do wonders.
Yeah.
And how like we know the best way to get stronger is you know variance, doing a lot of different lifts and
Hmm.
pushing the intensity every time, max effort, speed, strength, those pieces. Spend a lot of time on the conjugate system in here, and if you get stronger, your lifts are gonna be better for sure.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think for me, just like on that like little side note is I think a good metric for me is like when my squat's strong, my Olympic lifts are strong. That's something that I've found just at least for me personally, that correlates really well to my Olympic lifts. So I think when we
yeah,
get back into training, it's always like, all right, get my squat to this point, and then that normally correlates to my Olympic lifts being in a really good spot.
yeah. I agree. Yep. Um, and then third is technique, right? So you mentioned the strong athlete that is really good at the slow lifts. Maybe they have a monster squat and deadlift and press, but they just can't put it together. Um, you know, when it comes to the quick lifts, the explosive lifts, the snatch, clean, and jerk. So, you know, if they are limited by mobility, obviously that's going to be a big important piece. But if they're if this is a person that just maybe they're just not naturally athletic, they don't pick up the lifts very quickly, then doing a good dose of technique work is going to be that missing link. And so there's lots of ways to attack that. Um, but what we do is just think about like, okay, what specifically about the technique is limiting you? Is the bar getting far away from you? Is uh, your positions uphill, out of balance? What exactly is going on there? And then creating opportunities to like spend more time in those positions of struggle and hit those positions in different ways is how we're going to attack that. So an example from when was this? This was probably before semifinals this year. You were kind of getting in a habit of like a rocking chair snatch just a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what that means?
Yeah. So what was happening is I was obviously me and Adam are a little bit virtual, so I have to like send him some videos or he hops on and FaceTime. And what was like happening in my lift is as the bar came from the floor into like to my knees and then back into my hips, I would start flat footed and then I would rock into my heels. And then as the bar came back to my hip, I would rock back forward into my toes, if that makes
Yeah.
a little bit of sense. Where my foot just wasn't completely grounded on the floor, where I was able to like drive all the way through the pulling phase of the lift. I was like having this rock back and forth like a rocking chair.
Yeah. It's pretty much spot on, right? Our leg drive is what creates elevation on the bar, right? Creates speed on the bar. And that speed and elevation on the bar buys us time to pull ourselves underneath of the bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we do in the beginning of the lift, we want to make sure that we're balanced and we are getting our knees out of the way so that barbell can move vertically. But it's really easy to get so far back toward the heels that the toes lose contact with the floor. And then the result of that further uphill is that bar is usually going to pull you forward and kick forward too much, right? Because now we're on our toes too soon and we're not driving with our whole foot against the floor long enough. And so what we did is we started out with some just like snatch liftoffs to really hold and feel that position and drill that position for a long time. And then we moved into some isometric holds where actually we set the pins at just that knee level. So he would do a snatch lift off and hold and really like push the floor away and push the barbell into the bottom of those pins, which is super fun, right?
Yeah, no, it literally just forces you to have a grounded foot because you try to do that on your toes, it's damn near impossible.
It pulls you all over the place, right? And so we started out with working on those positions statically, and then we moved into some halting snatches so he could feel the position and then continue into the rest of the lift. And then from there to tempo snatches. And then the layer on top of that, we call them the yo-yo snatch, where he came up to mid-thigh, went back down below the knee, came up to the high hang, went back down below the knee, and then did a full snatch from there. And so he had lots of opportunities to drill and practice that position of weakness, which was, a big piece of what was holding back his performance, whether that's for a 1 rep max lift or for multiple lifts, right? If you're losing balance on the floor. And it turned out there was actually a snatch ladder at semifinals this year, and it went pretty good.
Yeah. No, it went really good.
So, yeah, just an example. For our weightlifting sessions, and again, I'm using the snatch as an example, but I also like the clean. Like you can use this for the clean too. I love using primers, which primers are just like drills and skills that are gonna, enhance the quality of the movement when you get to build it back into the full piece. So when you think about breaking a very complex movement like a snatch or a clean down into simple pieces, we can work on those simple pieces, each one with a specific purpose, so that when you put together the full puzzle, the puzzle's better, right? Mm-hmm. So a couple of my favorites are, of course, the burden warm-up, skill transfer exercises. We use those often in training and in competition. A primer that I really love is like from the ground up, we go snatch lift off, which gets the bar to the bottom of the knee. And then we go snatch deadlift, which gets us to the down position or the power position on the way up, into snatch pull, into snatch high pull, into a muscle snatch. And then we work back downhill into a 3-position snatch, high hang, hang, and floor. And we get lots of good quality reps at lightweight with good speed so that the system is primed and ready to rock and roll when we put more weight on.
No, 100%. So, and like when doing those, like it's about moving through like with intensity and speed. Like when you're doing your muscle snatches, you're really turning over, punching, and like really going through the movements like they count, Like you're not just going through the motions of them,
Yeah, and that's important as an athlete. I like that you said that. It's important as an athlete to know that like you're not just doing these movements as drills or as filler or as whatever.
It's not necessarily a warm up. It's like it's a primer. You should already be warm and you should be ready to move through this motion with like intent.
And each drill has a purpose, so you got to do those drills with that purpose in mind. So, where were we? Okay, so first one was basically you got to identify your weakness. 2, you got to attack that weakness. 3, you got to seek out opportunities to learn more, right? Which is why you're on this video. So check that box.
Boom.
No, but there's lots of good ways to do that. Number 1, if you're not working with a coach that can help you improve your technique, help you improve your strength, help you improve your mobility, find somebody that can help you, right? If you don't know where to start, find somebody in your community that has some expertise in that area, and commit to yourself to working on it. There's tons of books out there. There's tons of literature. There's tons of videos out there that you can just be a student of the game and learn a lot. And something that was like, man, really, really valuable for me as an athlete early on. I really struggled with weightlifting, and I got the opportunity to sign up for it and participate in like half a dozen weightlifting meets. And man, did I learn a lot through that process, right? When you get to go up there and you have one judge, watching all 3 lifts and you get one shot at it, man, you learn a lot. So there's tons of opportunities to put yourself out there and to grow, in your knowledge, in your experience, in these lifts. And man, look for those opportunities. If you're serious about getting better, like get smarter, work harder,
100%,
and it'll happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What else?
I mean, you're the expert here. We're following you, but I think I think that's awesome. I mean, obviously, this is more of a recap for me. I mean, I've worked with Adam for a long time now, but it's been really cool. And I think a lot of the times, like, there's always that saying, like, work smarter and not harder. Like you can bang your head through a wall like a million times, but like at the end of the day, like you just need to try new things, get better, work on the weaknesses. And I think that's what we try to do every day in our training. And I think that is able to move the needle so much further, So yeah, I loved it. That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
Sweet. Well, that's perfect. We're right at the 15-minute mark.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all we need, right?
Heck yeah. Well, that's it. That's another episode of Podium Series with weightlifting. But yeah, Adam, thanks for hopping on. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. Like I said before, if there's anything you guys want to know, people you want to have on, put them in the comments. But that's it. All in, all done. Time for me to go train.